we were still high school and junior high, I would just use the paper. If I'm trying to be professional with it, and he's got index cards.
This guy knows what he's doing.
I just always think about what my parents would say. That's stupid. Why do you have that paper on there? You need to use the index card. What the No matter how old you get, you still want to impress your parents, huh?
Yeah, all the time. Huh?
Yeah. You've done that, so you're good.
How many other? Do you have any other
Siblings?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a little brother and a little sister. So my sister's 2 years younger than me, and my brother's 5 years younger than me. Yeah.
His brother whooped his ass. Trey whooped that ass all day.
I got in a fight with him one time.
All day?
And and he had his knee just barely done, right? And so he was still recovering from his ACL. And I'm getting in a fight with him. I'm like, oh shit. He's like, he's got to heal. Like, I got to let go. So I lay off and he's just punching me. I'm just taking it like a champ because I don't want to be the one that ruins his knee. And then finally he puts me in chokehold. I was like, oh, hell no. And I grabbed, there was this plastic plate on the ground and I hit him over the head with the plastic plate. My dad comes running in and he's like, what the hell is going on here? And yeah, we got into it.
So this is probably like 3-4 years ago. Is this when he hurt his knee?
Yeah.
Tore his ACL?
Yeah.
So it wasn't that long ago.
That was like right before me.
These guys are already adults fighting like this.
Oh yeah. He's definitely got me by a bit though, and I underestimated how strong he was. That was the first time we fought since we were, probably 5 years or whatever. And it's like, boy, this kid's been lifting. You can tell. He could take me.
Trey, you're a good kid.
Yeah.
Oh, you would have got him though.
His knee wasn't bad. I took these down.
Just wait for the rematch.
Yeah.
Have one scheduled.
One of these days, it's cooking. Yeah. Fight night at the Bensons. Do you guys watch UFC?
Yeah.
Did you see that last night? That dude.
I didn't see the fight last night.
My God, it was right at the beginning of the fight. First kick and snap his leg.
Yeah.
It's the second time he's done that. I heard. That's what somebody was saying. Said he's broken both his legs off kicks before. So.
That's what I heard.
Like 5 seconds into it, huh?
Yeah, first kick. He didn't even notice after he kicked, and he tried to step back on it for his next move, and just.
Who was that?
I forgot his name.
It was one of the. Was it a prelim fight or?
I saw the championship.
Yeah, it was one of the prelim ones.
Yeah.
But,
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, was it Weidman?
Yeah, it was Weidman. Yeah, that's his name. Yeah. Chris Weidman, is that his
Wait,
name?
he broke his leg?
Yeah. Oh, snapped.
Yeah, snapped his.
Like how?
shin.
Doing
Because
a
he
kick,
broke
kicking the
Silva's
shin.
leg.
Yeah.
The same kick?
Yeah. Kick. Yeah. On the shin.
That is insane.
I was gonna say it was him and Silver, right?
Crazy.
Yeah, he broke the spider's leg.
Yeah.
And then his leg got broke. That's insane.
Yeah. It was right at the beginning of the fight, and he comes back to land for his next move, and he didn't realize it was busted and just falls, and it's just hanging.
Oh.
Yeah. Wild.
Well, heal up fast, huh? Come talk to Ryzen because he's working at the hospital.
Let's get you back on the back in the octagon.
Some biomedical on that leg, you know what I mean?
No, I don't.
We got
that. For real, no, we don't.
How are you good?
All right. Hey. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of brand new podcast. This is episode 7, and just really just optimistic of where we're trying to take this, and just staying positive. And it's been a ride with my brother Joe here, and just taking it to the sky. I guess the sky is the limit. As cliche as it sounds, yeah, the sky is the limit. And thank you again. Love all you guys. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you'll see what we're all about, just like right now. I want to welcome Ryzen Benson to our episode today.
Thanks for having me.
I know I've been talking with Ryzen for a while. Well, actually, I've been talking to your dad about getting you on the podcast, just because of the things that you've done in your life, being at a young age, and you're how old are you?
25.
25. And this kid has done some incredible things. I first met this kid. I was a guest speaker at his high school football game, the dinner, and that's where I got to meet you. You introduced yourself as a captain under Danny Dupay.
Yeah.
Danny Dupay was a good friend of mine, who was the head coach at West Jordan, and he's Roger Dupay. If you guys know who Roger Dupay, Hall of Fame high school football coach from Skyline High. Also coached over at Highland too, where you coached.
Yeah. It's spider web.
Yeah.
Everything connected.
Yeah. So that being said, I got to meet Ryzen there, and then about a year later, I started at my job, and I find out that your dad is working. Me and your dad are working together, and I get on the staff, the coaching staff at West Jordan, and I meet your little brother Trey, and so I coached him for a little bit. Things didn't go right as far as staff wise over there, and ended up going to a different high school. But it's just it's cool that I got to meet you guys and actually keep in touch with you guys. Well, of course, I got to see, the pops every day. Ain't nobody want to see that person. Shout out to Derek Benson.
Derek in the house.
Local 222. But yeah, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself growing up, where you grew up, and a little bit about your family and where you are now, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. So I guess kind of like you said, my name's Ryzen. I grew up West Jordan, local kid.
Best Jordan.
Yeah.
Best Jordan.
Best Jordan. Best Jordan. There you go.
Of all the Jordans, there's Jordan, Jordanelle, South Jordan.
Yeah, the king of the Jordans. Yeah. No, I grew up here in my entire life, played sports all throughout, played baseball, basketball, football. Once I got to high school, I focused on football. That's kind of where I stuck. I love playing football. I played corner, and I really kind of found my stride. Throughout Little League, I was kind of that kid. You get your 10 plays a game. No slight, but I was running around with my little goggles, just getting the, hit left and right, ear hold. Got to high school, kind of took ownership and kind of stepped up and really, found some passion for football. And then I ended up, deciding, weighing my options between college or just going and starting my schooling. And I decided, I was like, I'm going to go to school, and ended up going to Westminster College in Sugar House, and finished up that in 2018. And now I'm up at the U working on my next little bout of school, and, wrapping that up here in the next year or so. So,
Nice.
and we'll kind of see, where that takes me. And, I've got some plans and trying to, accomplish whatever I set that.
What are the near plans?
The near plans? Well, so that's a big question. So I finish up here probably in the next year, and then I'll probably have to go out of state for a year or two and work a position for a year or two, get some credibility under my name, and then try and come back here and get a permanent job here in Utah. So we'll see. But.
Yeah. And the U of you, and I don't want to dive right into it right now, but it's biomedical informatics that you're in for, and advanced healthcare research, right?
Yeah.
And I learned that the U of you is the hub for that. Is a hub for biomedical informatic and advanced healthcare.
It's a lot, man.
Yeah, it's a lot. And just doing my research on it, like I said when we were talking before, like it's just a complex thing that you guys are going through. And I couldn't comprehend some of the information that I was reading. It's like, what the heck was that? Not only that, let's see. Yeah, they're the hub. And they also put this out that you use not only about technology advancement, but about the interactions among people, informatics and technology. And so I thought that was pretty cool. You guys kind of got a good theme statement that you guys want to go by. So tell us a little bit just about that before we get too deep into it.
For sure.
There's other questions that I want to ask.
Yeah, for sure. So bioinformatics, and kind of like you said, it's the the intersection between biomedical sciences and healthcare and technology.
Mm-hmm.
So in the current space, you go back say 60 years or 70 years, the start of healthcare or biomedical informatics, and the world is completely different, right? I mean, computers were the sizes of rooms. Traditional experimentation, in sciences was you mix chemicals, you put stuff on cells, and that stuff still happens today. But as time goes on, we realize how much data we generate, as people on our phones, in our cars when we're driving, everything we do, posting on Twitter, Facebook, and there's just data that's underutilized, ways that we can study healthcare, psychology, behavioral patterns, public health. And basically the whole field is just basically how can we leverage this data to answer these kind of questions. And especially in the last 10 years, we see this emergence of people who are wanting to take control of their own health, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people wearing Fitbits and Apple Watches, they want to track what they're doing.
Yeah.
They want to be in charge of, their healthcare. They go to the doctors. They don't want to just be told, take this pill, for however many days and you'll be cured. They want to know what's going on, why, how do I fix this in the future? And so it brings in a whole new space of our field of, how do we interact with our patients and how do we bring them into the picture and get them involved in their own healthcare, and try to keep them accountable for their health, and so they want to see these kind of changes. So
and it's like a vast majority of where you guys get your data from. We'll get into that.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just incredible to see that. I want to go before that. And I've been you joined I believe it was just the Utah High School Association's clinic. They have that out in Wendover.
Yeah.
Just outside Utah. And we went out there, and before I went out there, your father had told me, he's like, hey, Ryzen's going to be out there teaching the class. Well, it was about concussions, and I don't know anything about concussions. It said that you got your bell rung, and then you're going to sit out for 5 minutes or whatnot, and you're going to go back in that way. That's the era I grew up in,
That's right.
But so I was like, yeah, man, I'll go check it out. So I went and checked it out, and it was just cool about the information, and concerning,
right?
The information about the concussions that can how you can cause a concussion simply as just like a little ding like this can like hurt somebody's head. You know what I mean? So anyways, I want you to get into that.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
I mean, you just kind of hit it on the head. Like any single thing can cause a concussion, right? Like I've heard stories of people like their dogs run into them and it gives them a concussion, right? Like just head-to-head contact with a dog, right?
Yeah.
So that's beside the point. But how I got into this, it's kind of a weird story. So my senior year of football, it was our very last game. We were playing Jordan High School. We were at Jordan.
Beat Diggers?
No. We're playing Jordan.
Talk your shit.
I can say that, but we were getting our ass kicked at that point. So with continuous running clock at that point. No. So we're playing Jordan, and it's about the fourth quarter, about halfway through, and I go to tackle this kid. He sweeps out to my side, and a pretty nice form tackle. But do you guys remember Jordan's field book? I don't know if they redone it or not. It was,
they redone it.
Oh my case! Before they redid it, and it was like concrete under, and then they had like a layer of sand and then the turf. Yeah. Oh yeah,
you
so
see the
bad.
plywood under the
So
turf.
hard. It was bad. Like we would have been better playing out on the street for sure. But I pretty nice form tackle. I hit my head good, like just smack dead on the ground, and knocked me out for probably 3 seconds. Like I open my eyes, everything's moving, swaying, different colors or whatever. And Dr. Ponce, was our team doctor at the time, and he looks at me, he's like, "You good?" And then he's was telling me kind of come, and then it's like, "No, I'm okay." So I stay in the rest of the game because at this point I had about 4 or 5 schools I was talking to back on the East Coast, some D2, D3 schools to go play ball. I wasn't sure. I was kind of leaning more towards staying at school, not playing football, but I didn't know. But I was like, this is my last chance to play football, so I didn't want to go out at all. So I stay in, keep hitting on it, keep hitting. Come to find out, after that point, I was pretty messed up. The next 6 months, like I had a lot of problems with repeating lines, getting really foggy, not being able to remember things. I got dizzy. I couldn't stand, up straight. I was kind of swaying, orbital headaches, in one eye for constantly. And that's kind of like, this isn't, worth it for me at that point.
Yeah.
But I was like, this is kind of at the same time that movie Concussion with Will Smith came out. You guys see that movie?
Yeah.
No.
I haven't seen it yet.
So it kind of sparked this whole debate into concussions again, right? And this is kind of around.
I saw that. I remember all those interviews.
Yeah, and it's when Junior Seau killed himself right around that same time.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really sparked a lot of conversation, like, should we even be playing football?
Yeah.
And I know you guys, like, my opinion, like, football brought a lot of, valuable lessons to
Aside
me.
from football.
Right? Yeah. Right? Some lessons to take, throughout life.
Yeah.
And I've seen it transform a lot of people, right? A lot of kids who really needed, some sort of guidance in their life, and football provided that kind of structure.
Mm-hmm.
So this call to just downright ban football to me was nonsense, right? There's a lot of people that really need the sport. So I started thinking, maybe there's other ways that we can address this. And I was coaching football at Highland at the time. I was assistant coach at Highland High.
Go Rams!
Go Rams! We had our first parent meeting, right? Our first parent player meeting, and we get talking about these neck exercises that we had incorporated and how they reduce concussions. And me being in science, like, I start going to, literature and start trying to read studies, stuff that's been done. And it hadn't been done in high school football players to this point. It had been done in some rugby players. And rugby players are already a little better off just because they're better form in tackling.
Yeah.
So football players, they think they have a helmet on their head, and so they just
they just kind of throw their bodies,
do whatever,
which
right?
works
just
if
get
you,
reckless, right?
Which works if you know how to use your body like
for
that,
sure,
sacrifice your body.
But I was like, there's a lack of evidence on this. I was like, I want to be the one to provide that evidence.
Yeah.
And so I started working with some professors at my school on designing a study, with high school football players throughout the state. And
this is at Westminster, right?
Yeah, it's at Westminster, yeah. So, and I come up with a study idea of where I can go around to high schools all around the state. And I can't release which schools' names just for confidentiality purposes, but drive from, the northernmost tip of the state all the way to the southernmost tip of the state, interviewed hundreds and hundreds of players and coaches, and ended up getting some really cool data on, the kind of role that these neck exercises that we were doing play in preventing concussions.
Yeah.
How many seasons did you do that?
So I only did it for over the course of the 1 year, but it ended up being 505 athletes, I think is what it was, that I interviewed one-on-one and went through their medical history, concussion history.
He did a lot of work. He did a lot. He explained this all in that clinic, and I was just shocked of how much information he got from a lot of other kids.
Yeah. 500 plus people. That's hours.
I mean, I just got a brand new car at the time, and I put thousands of miles on my car, and I was like, but it's you kind of brought up a good point, right? Like, I think I was kind of this generation in between the rough, like, you don't get hurt, you play through everything, and kind of more today, right? You take things easy, and people are really understanding of injuries, especially head injuries, right now. I was kind of in that middle piece. And one of the difficult things was, like, how do I interview these kids to get their true, exposures and histories? Because, like, if I say, have you gotten a concussion before, and did you not tell your coach about it? Right? They may think I'm going to snitch on them to their coach,
right, right.
And so you got to kind of build this confidence and this interaction with the players, so they understand, like, this is for the betterment of, the field, and that I'm not your enemy. I'm not going to, snitch on you for that kind of stuff. Right. So, I think
snitches get stitches.
Snitches get stitches.
Hey man, you're at work.
It's just my paycheck, dude. Yeah. So, I think coming from being younger, I was closer to these kids' age, so they kind of see me more as like a bro rather than, some, 65-year-old doctor, or something like that. So but it was an awesome experience, and we had some really good results from it. So
yeah, no, I mean, and those results took you, which I was like, you're not even my son, but I was real proud to know somebody, from the local city that we all live in, to go and represent, who you are, represent your school, and actually represent the state of Utah. Tell us a little about that. It was at the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
What year was that?
You went to the Pro Bowl?
2017. Yeah.
After that time?
Yeah.
Dang, that's worth the time.
Yeah.
So he spoke.
I spoke. I presented it at the Pro Bowl. Yeah. So this is kind of they started this entire symposium that year that I was wrapping up this research on just concussions, right, in NFL players. This was right. There was a huge lawsuit that was put onto the Players Association. I think it was the Players Association.
Yeah.
From the players saying, that they were like in danger from head issues.
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
And they were. I talked to you many times, and I told you about what he was into. That the CTE, and we were talking about how a lot of the NFL players should not ban the use of cannabis because they believe that it helps them, and it's helped a lot of these guys. One of them is Kyle Turley, who's a big activist of cannabis in in any athletic field that has that is physical, and using the cannabis would help these guys heal, and ease the pain instead of taking these opioids, these pills that they're taking. It's making them sick. Sorry to cut you off.
No, yeah, absolutely.
But that was kind of during that era or whatever that confrontation between all that stuff.
Yeah, they kind of just shifted into harm reduction mode, right? They're kind of like, the damage has been done. How do we kind of show that we're on the right side of this whole thing? So they arranged for this huge conference, this symposium, and they brought in Hitachi Medical. I can't remember what other medical companies they had, and they had tons of MRI machines, and they were offering free screening to former NFL players. And so they brought in something like 100 something NFL players, and they had them give them all free MRIs, and they were or CT scans, sorry, not MRIs. And they were, basically looking and seeing if they had any sort of damage.
Former and current.
Former and current. And so basically they had a bunch of people presenting research on, the latest and the greatest in concussion research. And they asked me to come out and present. And so I presented all my stuff. And it was just a really cool experience. I got to meet, all these big deals in the NFL Players Association, the neurosurgeons of the NFL, and the lawyers of the NFL. And
did you have a title? Did you have your bachelor's then?
No. Yeah.
See, that wasn't... He had no credentials, but probably had a associates or something. But other than that, it was just a boy amongst men.
I just turned 21, I think, 3 weeks before. Yeah. So my pops and we grabbed a beer, because it was at University of Central Florida, right? Yeah. And so cool campus, right? And it's definitely a college town. And we grabbed some, some beers. It was my first beer with my dad, I think, other than my 21st birthday, but.
Other than the 18th birthday.
Yeah.
Again, shout out to Derek Benson, local 222.
But it was such an incredible experience, man. And it's just I may have moved in a different direction with my current work, but I've always left that door open just because the impact that I saw immediately, right? I had the NFL experience. I had I presented it to Tosh, the hospital, right? I presented to their physical therapist out there. And they started incorporating it in their physical therapy regimens. I had a guy ask if he could present on my research at the United States Cheerleading Association, something internationally. So, because cheerleaders have the highest rate of any sport concussions, at least at that point. What? That and soccer. Yeah. So football gets a bad rep, right? Because it's a violent sport. It looks so, and it's in the pocket. But cheerleaders get dropped so frequently, or soccer, heading the ball, hitting it,
Well, even the way they catch them, their head lands, I don't know, somewhere right here, but you're still getting that, that little jerk.
Well, and that's the thing is
whiplash.
Yeah, and it's the thing is everybody thinks a helmet is going to be the end all all of this whole thing, but what it boils down to, right, is your neck, your head jerks so violently, and your neck can't stabilize your head, so your brain just slams into your skull. Oh. So any sport that you can think of which has sudden movements, right, is prone to concussion. So
that's awesome.
Pretty cool.
How was the beer with your dad?
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
Played some darts. Yeah. And it was the night before, so I had to kind of take it a little easy. But but it was cool because after the conference, the NFL, they rented out a Fleming's steakhouse. So we all got to go to Fleming's, and it was an open bar and everything. Oh, wow. So we got to enjoy it a little more that night. Yeah. So it was fun.
Who won the darts? Hey, come on, man.
No, I got to give it to the master. I think he'd probably beat me pretty handily. So,
you're a big WWF fan. Tell us the story. How you met one of your biggest fans, or one of your superheroes, like wrestling heroes, I guess.
So of all people, right, at this NFL symposium, I'm sitting there with my dad. I think I was drinking a glass of wine and he had a beer, and we were eating these little steak kebabs, and he's like, "That's Hacksaw Jim Duggan." He's like, "No way." And he's like, "Go up and see," and I turns around. I'm like, "Oh my, it is." So I walk up to him and I go to handshake him, right? And he's got the biggest hands I've ever seen. They're just meat sticks, right? Like just giant swollen hands. And we sit there and we start, throwing a couple back and eating and telling stories. And he's telling us stories of fighting Andre the Giant like 70 straight nights in New York. And like, I was like, of all the people I came here, to talk with and interact with, I'm sitting here, chilling with a wrestling legend. And we sat there for probably 2.5, 3 hours talking about his life, what he's doing now. He does a lot of speaking and stuff like that now.
That's cool.
And it was really cool. It was an awesome experience, man.
When you shook his hand, you should have been like, "Oh!" Give him my elbow drop or something. That's cool, man. That's awesome.
He still could have taken me. Like that dude is insane shape. I think he's 65-ish maybe. Like he's getting up there. But he could totally. Yeah, you clear some tables out and you'd have a throw down there for sure. Yeah.
All right. So that's cool how you got into that concussion, and then I thought you were still in it. When I wanted you on here, I thought you were still in it. Yeah. And then your pops has told me that you had gone into a different field. Mm-hmm. And I think he told me the name. I just, huh? Yeah. And I was like, what? What'd you say? He's into what? And just doing my research to see what you were actually getting into. Like I said before, damn, it's a lot of fucking shit that you have to put in just to, come up with whatever project that, to complete the project that you guys are doing. And is there, I want to talk about this real quick, because obviously we have the COVID.
Yeah. And
there is I think it was like 3 criteria that they went over, which is area, goals, and example. That I was looking up. And first, let's go over to the data. This is the data it says that it goes over. You guys kind of get into, and let's see. I'll just name them. One is patient data. The other is patient portals. I have no clue what it is. The web, which is the patient blogs. Department of Public Health. The industry, which is like pharmaceutical industry, like CVS and stuff like that. Specialty societies, people that hold health stuff, and you guys get your data from it, and then publish data, which is and it says it's a biomedical informatics explores the use of this data to improve healthcare outcomes. And I don't know if that's all of them. I'm pretty sure there's more you probably can say. Yeah. Or tell us, and it gets into this criteria, and there was like 5. There was 5 of these, but the 3 areas that you guys want to care is it's called the area, the goals, and example. And the area went over. The area is public. Well, this is what I wanted to talk about because of the COVID,
for sure.
And I feel like I don't know if for sure you can answer it right now, but I don't know if before the COVID hit, you guys were kind of trying to find a way to prevent this from spreading. Right. But it's public health informatics, and the goals to improve the health of populations and communities. An example, I don't know if I'm saying this right, but syndromic surveillance.
Syndromic?
Yeah, syndromic surveillance. And I looked at it, I was like, oh shit, the COVID. Yeah. I wonder if these guys were trying to find, some type of advanced research or healthcare to prevent this from spreading. Can you tell us a little? I don't know. Were you guys?
Well, for sure. So the interesting thing, and I talked about this, with a couple buddies before, is like in the field of public health, we've talked about pandemics for a long time and talked about how we're overdue and we're very ill prepared. So when this hit, like to me, it wasn't really a surprise. Like I kind of expected it. It was kind of surreal. To me, it felt like I was reading in a textbook, right? So in a textbook, when I'm reading for my classes and learning how to like handle these different situations, I felt like I was just going through like a practice problem in a textbook. But it didn't come out of nowhere. I think the impact that it had and continues to have for as long as it has, I think has kind of shocked a lot of people and the public perception, right?
Yeah.
So you have, a lot of people hold different views about the thing. And that's the most difficult part about the whole thing, because I think the answers of how to address the pandemic are pretty straightforward. But you also, you can't tell people what to do in every aspect of their life, right? And that's a hard thing as a scientist to respect, right? And especially, getting called a quack or a fake scientist and like that kind of stuff's rough, and that's not the stuff. Quack? Yeah,
never heard this term.
It's just basically like
derogatory scientist.
Yeah, just term? Like you're a fake, you're a hack, you're a fake doctor, you're a fake scientist, things like that.
Despite of look at all these credentials I have behind me, and you're still calling me whack.
It's
quack.
just like spending every day of your life for the last 8-9 years. It's frustrating to hear, but that's
when
not
you're doing the work. You're doing the data collection. You're also
sure.
doing the analysis.
Yeah.
So I mean, that kind of should show itself.
Yeah, and that's the sad part, right? Is there's a lot of people that just don't care. They think data isn't everything, which to me, data is everything, right? In my field, right? But it's syndromic surveillance. Like you kind of mentioned that, and that's this idea of basically viewing patterns of people, right? Whether it's things they do and trying to kind of draw correlations between that and illness. And so I'll kind of explain that a little bit different.
I don't know why that just reminded me of. Does that have anything to do with epigenetics as well? Or is it...
So it's like epidemiology. Basically, it's called computational epidemiology. Is essentially what it is.
Oh,
so we take sources.
English.
I talk about that shit all the time.
We're talking English. I mean, we probably look like we don't speak English, but we do.
We're not just savages.
It's like this, basically the subset, right? Like we take Twitter data, right? And we'll observe like de-identified tweets. So we stripped away people's personal identifiers. So we just have the tweet body. We don't have any names. We don't have anything. We just have the content of tweets. And we basically look for things that indicate they may have COVID. So people talking about, I lost my taste of sense and smell. I'm coughing, like crazy. I have, chest pain. And so we try and link up these different patterns of people. And when we actually overlay those, we say, okay, we think this person has COVID. And when we overlay that with the actual numbers from like the CDC, they're almost spot on. So we can use stuff like Google. And so the thing is, somebody goes to like, say, get a test done, a COVID test done. Yeah. And there's like a 4 or 5 day turnaround, right? They get their test, they wait 4 or 5 days. We can observe this in real time. So we can go look at people's tweets that they tweeted 10 seconds ago and make a projection, say, this person might have COVID. So we're actually ahead of the curve on all that. So this field has been emerging for some time.
I'm sorry. You're saying you get these guys, these people's tweets. How are you guys getting this information?
It's free information.
Is it?
Yeah,
I mean,
public
like
information. You're on,
Do you guys do your research or like, hey, this area is doing a COVID testing? So like Harriman had a COVID testing because it broke out within one of the sports over there. So we all needed to be tested, even the coaches. So like us, would you be able to like? Is someone in the health department like, hey, Harriman High School is getting tested. You guys want to check up on them? Get some test results from them. Is that how? It's just word of mouth, just people.
So the health department actually employs people to do this kind of work.
Oh. Okay.
So the syndromic surveillance, and it's not just specific to Twitter. Like we can use like Google search queries, so we can see common things that are getting. So for instance, like the spike at the start of the pandemic, we saw a lot of searches related to fear, right? Fear of the pandemic or fear, uncertainty, and stuff like that. So it's really good for tracking psychological behavioral patterns. But the Twitter thing, they have these things called APIs, and they're basically, if you apply for access to them and you create search queries, of certain tweets that you want to collect, and it'll collect tweets that meet that criteria. So if say I want to collect all the tweets between March 2020 and April 2021 that mention COVID, and you can collect all those, and then you can use whatever kind of analysis you want, whether it be.
And it's probably easy because everyone hashtags the issue of
for sure,
in whatever is happening. You know,
Yeah.
hashtag pandemic, hashtag COVID-19.
Yeah.
You know.
Everyone talks about it for
Yeah.
sure. And that's kind of, I think the most difficult part about that kind of work is like coming up with comprehensive search terms, right? Because people will say COVID, some people will say coronavirus, some people just say corona, some people say the virus, you know, all kinds of things. And so you have to come up with like a pretty comprehensive way to get all the tweets you want. But then comes the question, like, now that we have all these tweets, okay, what do we do, right? If I have hundreds of thousands of tweets,
I can sort them out.
Yeah, I can't go through and read 10,000 tweets, like realistically, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we develop these artificial intelligence algorithms. So we develop these algorithms that will like read these tweets and learn patterns of data from these tweets and make predictions based off that tweet. So
Sorry, I'm thinking of aliens right now, but go ahead.
yeah, it's surreal. Like this whole field, like, I mean, I was talking about it with my mother-in-law the other day with Tesla, right? Do you remember like 5 years ago when like the auto park assist thing was a huge deal?
Yeah.
And now you got cars like driving themselves.
Yeah.
I was in Pittsburgh and I saw one of the Google cars with no person in the car at all, just driving down the street like 4 years ago. And it was the biggest mind. I was like, holy shit. Like but where are we going to be, you know, in 5 years? You know, it blows my mind. But I'm applying these artificial intelligence algorithms. Like, so I published this paper back in September on comparing, you know, what people, you've seen Juul, the e-cigs that look like USBs, right?
Yeah.
So great alternative to smoking for people who are trying to quit, right? Because it has about the same amount of nicotine in a Juul pod as a pack of cigarettes. And it's absorbed roughly the same way. Okay. So it's really good. But the problem is a lot of high school youth are using them.
Mm-hmm.
And there's really well documented evidence that underage nicotine exposure, you know, alters the brain drastically.
Right.
The functions, the structure, and then the data also shows that these individuals are likely to transition to traditional cigarettes, right? Which cigarette rates have been declining over the past five decades.
Yeah.
And, you know, now turning a new generation of kids onto it isn't ideal. But I collected tweets related to Juul, and I wanted to see, can I create a machine learning algorithm that can automatically predict tweets that are likely underage related Juul users? Because people don't tweet, I'm 16 years old and I love Juuling, right? They just say, you know, like, does anybody have a Juul pod I can have, or something like that? You know, like my mom took my Juul away. And so I developed this machine learning, this artificial intelligence algorithm that could predict those tweets with like 99% accuracy. It can just basically find a tweet. And what that does
Did you create the program from scratch?
Yeah.
Okay.
So just manually sitting in my room, just sitting there coding away for hundreds of hours. But we got to the point now where it's like we can collect thousands of tweets of underage Juul use and study, you know, underage specific Juul use, you know, stuff like that. And that's kind of like the whole premise of our field, right? Is it's like there's so much data we don't use, and as long as you can find some way to relate it to health, like the questions we can answer are insane. So there's people who use these artificial intelligence algorithms to develop new drugs or to find new ways to use old drugs, you know. So there's this thing of like using, you know, whatever drug's been on the market for 20 years and say, maybe this could, you know, cure liver cancer, and, you know, run a bunch of algorithms and hundreds of thousands of simulations and decide, wow, it's actually a good target. And then it, you know, it's up to other scientists to test it further than that. So it's a really cool field. It's fun to be part of because it's it's right on the cusp of everything and pushing everything forward. But it's cool.
That's awesome.
I didn't know you create AIs.
Yeah.
So that's way cool.
Well,
that wasn't part of the thing you did.
Well, you guys know like Iron Man, right? Like Jarvis in his head.
Cool. Yeah.
So I'm working on building my own Jarvis, right? Okay. And I got him like answering questions
What's the first
and stuff like that.
for it to do?
So the first thing I had him do was I was like, multiply 6,970 something thousand times 424,000, and he did it in like 1 second. Like it's cool. You just talk to him. It's cool. Or like, what was the score of the Yankees game today, which they lost? So I wouldn't ask him that.
Is it learning your
like
thought patterns and stuff?
I actually haven't worked on that, but there are people who are doing that. I follow quite a few people who do that kind of stuff. It's like the language generation to the point where you can just have a one-on-one conversation with a machine and stuff like that. And that's really coming. Like that's coming really fast. So that'll be.
Well, I don't knock that at all. I believe that.
For sure.
When did you start coding?
2 years ago.
Oh, okay.
So 2018, so almost 3 years ago when I was when I first started.
Yeah, you're getting broke this thing. That's way cool, man.
I'm
We
still
got a hook.
pretty bad compared to a lot of people. There's some insane kids who've been programming since they were 6, 7 years old, you know. But that's how it's gonna be from this point on, right? Like these jobs, like if you want to get a job right now, you could go and take a course in data science and programming that it's free, takes 4 or 5 months to finish, and you could go get a job at Facebook making $200,000 a year.
Yeah.
Like no education
Yeah.
required, nothing. Like data science is kind of the way of the future, and you see it with all these companies, SpaceX and Tesla, Google, all these. I mean, that's the way it's going.
No, I
Yeah.
just going back to what I was gonna say. I believe that you're gonna be talking to a robot just one on one. It's because my daughter has TikTok and everybody on social media talking. But when you see people in person, there's no talking.
No, none.
But you talk like it's nothing on social media, and you're talking to that person who's sitting directly across from you.
Yeah,
and you can't even talk to them in person. Yeah. And I see all these live streams, and I can see people just like being comfortable in their own room and talking to a robot.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And because I don't know, I feel there's some dangers and there's some positives to it. The dangers I see is that person is gonna be hard to cope or get along with in the public. Yeah, you know, and then it's also gonna put a scare on that person. It's like, man, if I go out, I'm gonna catch the COVID if I go out. And I'm pretty sure there's people like that right now that don't want to go out.
For sure. And it's like, I mean, I suffered, like, I had that for a while. Like, I've always been pretty outgoing, but, like, for instance, talking on the phone, right? It took me till I was probably, like, 20 years old to, like, be able to call up, like, and order a pizza or something without getting nervous, right? Yeah. And so it's just getting magnified. And a lot of that does boil down to social media, right? Like, people glued into their phones, right? I've seen it firsthand with friends and stuff whose personalities changed completely. Social media has been great for, we see a lot of things. It's a way for a lot of people to keep current on the world, express how they feel and stuff like that. But there's a lot of bad that comes with it too, and I think a lot of it's going to be a lot on teachers and stuff growing up, keeping these kids interacting with each other and working in teams. Because like, what happens when you get to a job and you have to like work with your coworkers and stuff like that? Yeah, you have no social skills, right? And so that's definitely one of the people's worries with AI as well. And I mean that and the stuff like jobs and stuff like that, right? So there's a lot of concerns for sure, but there's a lot of potential for it to really, transform our lives for the better. So we'll see.
I know we just talked about that. It's going into that direction. Is there anything else that you probably can't? I don't know if you can talk about, but is there something that that we should know that you guys are working on? Is there something that's going around that's affecting the health other than COVID? Right. I know the COVID's the big one right now, but we have the vaccinations as well. Is there anything other than those two that? I don't know. I'm just curious what you guys are working on right now. Kind of just help the.
Yeah, it's. I mean, there isn't anything I would say, like secret, anything like that. But like, we're working on every end of the spectrum, right? So behavioral, things, people's patterns of speech to nutrition or what people buy nutrition wise, all the way to cancer and infectious diseases. And I've noticed one thing, like, it's really difficult is conveying data or like conveying science, to the general public, and not like just, you got to try and, talk about these things, but not a fear mongering type way. Right. Yeah. Like you don't want to sit there and say, everybody's going to die from COVID, right. On live TV or something like that. And so that communication between scientists and the general public is one of the biggest gaps in science. And Alan Alda, did you guys ever watch MASH, like the TV show MASH? So like the old Army show, he's like the main actor in that. And he's built this whole institution at Stony Brook in New York.
Sorry,
and
I couldn't hear.
Siri, what are you doing?
Siri.
Ain't nobody talking to your ass.
He built this whole institution for conveying science, back and forth between the public. And I think that's where a lot of effort needs to go. It's like so that scientists and the public can talk back and forth, you know, about these things, rather than just scientists go and publish a paper that, you know, like, you know, Johnny down the street is never going to see, never going to read. What good does that do for the general public? You know, if somebody has no idea, you know, what you did or what you said.
So having science more involved with the general public.
Yeah, I think, and
I think get people on that page.
That's the tough part. Yeah. And I think a lot of it, you know, there's actually this really interesting thing. Somebody in our department told us about. I forgot what city it's in, and they do this science day every day at this pub, right? Okay. So they'll bring in a scientist, and they'll just sit up there and they'll talk about their research on an open mic in like normal terms, not like making it boring, but making it fun, and people just throwing back beers and stuff like that. So like, what ways can we do? You gotta get
this
creative,
guy's
right?
bullshit. Get him off of the stage. Who invited this guy?
Falling over, reading a paper.
Unless you retain, if you're
for real. But at least getting people, you know, like interacting and talking, you know, and stuff like that. But like the interest in like popular fiction, whether it be like TV or stuff like that, right? Like science shows coming. I think like stuff like SpaceX, like there's this whole new space exploration push, right? And I think that's got a lot of people interested in, you know, that maybe otherwise wouldn't be, you know, like we're trying to send people to the moon and Mars and stuff like that. But I think that's a big barrier, and I don't have the best answer for it, you know.
Some people believe we still didn't go to the moon. Yeah. So a lot of people out there that believe that we didn't land on the moon. I think the picture in the
I think my dad wrote a paper about that in college.
Oh really?
Yeah. I think he wrote about the moon hoax.
We gotta have him on the pod.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. There's so many people. It's an elaborate theory. Like that goes down into like it's all Hollywood CGI, and they're looking at like how the flag moves and stuff. And it's just
Oh wow.
To me, it blows my mind. So that's probably one of our greatest achievements ever. So
that's cool. And I can see that how people can. They just have a hard time believing in science because, you know, the common remark you would get or response you get is like, I believe in God.
For sure.
God created everything. Yeah. You guys didn't create it. God did. I know. I just trying to do my job and create something so that we can keep living or, you know.
It's interesting because, like, you'd be amazed at how many scientists, like, are totally religious, right? It kind of blew my mind. Like, I myself... Like
that's cool.
Yeah, like it's like I have so many friends, right, who are hardcore religious, and then they also believe in, you know, just about everything in science and stuff like. And I'm sure that's really tough, right? Because there is some confliction, you know, for sure. But there's no reason they can't coexist for sure. And I mean things that don't even have to do with religion. So for instance, COVID, right? You know, like hopefully that stuff shouldn't be politicized or have religion brought into it, but sometimes it does, which is unfortunate.
I remember being in biology class in college. Sorry, I didn't pass biology in high school. I wasn't smart.
So you're a biologist now.
If I would have got the passing grade, but and in that class, you know, when you're in college, it is. The door is wide open. You talk free shit in there, right? You know what I mean? For sure. So there was kids in biology class who was like, I don't believe in this shit. Right. I'm a firm believer of God. My cell it's not from the plant, and you know, we're not from the water. I'm from God. Yeah. And they'll argue that. And that one of our classes that was the whole argument.
That was the class?
That was the class. The teacher I have no clue who our professor was. But I just remember I think it was the most attentive I've ever been in my biology class was that day when they were going back and forth about God and science.
Well, and that's healthy, right? I mean, that's how it should be. Because like if you have somebody who's super religious shutting out science completely, we get stuff like this happening, right? Like, you know, people who are, you know,
misinformation,
right? Exactly. Cool. Yeah. But scientists on the same end, if scientist sits there and says, no, your religion's wrong, science is the only way, then you're alienating 75% of the population, right? Yeah. And now they don't want to believe in science. They don't want to listen to a word you say. So it's tough. It is for sure. I think when the name calling starts, you know, and the questioning people and
and that's the cool thing about the professor. What I remember, he wasn't trying to push anything. He was just having a conversation. For sure. And because it's public school and, you know, they're not allowing, you know, you don't want to talk about religion. I don't think it's even allowed if they don't allow it. But yeah, it was just interesting. I see how that's that can. But it's not just that. It's not just believe in God and science. It's everything else.
For sure.
I just don't believe in that. It's dumb. I think they're trying to just get our DNA to clone us and take my identity or whatever they.
Well, and conspiracy theories have been around for forever, right? But like social media has made those 10 times worse, right? And it's going to get worse, especially like back to artificial intelligence. Have you guys seen those deep fake videos? Have you guys seen those things? Go Google this, okay? So it's artificial. It basically takes somebody's deep fake, okay?
Deep fake.
And it basically takes like a video of somebody talking and you transpose, it's kind of like a filter kind of type thing, right? And you put somebody else's face on it. And you can make a video of them looking like they're saying certain things. So people are worried for like political slander, right? So like I could throw up a video right now of, Joe Biden saying just a normal speech and I could put something completely awful on him and it could be weaponized like hardcore. Like it's got bad potential.
Oh my gosh.
Information is definitely weaponized nowadays.
Mm-hmm. I mean, even those like scary those ad libs, those funny NFL ad libs, or like the guy that come on and he'll say something funny,
the announcer,
lip syncing, and sometimes you really think that that's what he's saying.
Yeah.
So like, who else does that? Jimmy Kimmel does a segment about that, or does a little comedy segment with that, and he'll do his own ad libs of what they're really saying, or not his own ad libs. He'll put like he'll put like a swear word or a curse word at the end of their sentence. Yeah. It's funny. You've seen it? Yeah. But something like that, they can twist the mind.
Right.
Like, what the hell?
Well, the problem is it's getting so good that it's getting to the point now where people can't tell the difference, right? And now you just have to use your critical thinking, right?
Yeah.
And most people, they see a video, right? And their first thought isn't like to sit there and be like, okay, I'm going to go search on Google and see if that's true, right?
Mm-hmm.
They just one will go into the comments and look, which if you got a bunch of misinformed people, now you're misinformed as well. Or if you got people that are conflicting, what do I believe? And so, I don't know. It's a problem for sure. I don't remember how I got to deep fake, but
No, you're good.
I seen that there's a video on the deep fake and how it's made.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty insane, dude. So you have to have enough pictures out there on the internet or just to be collected, like how you collect information, to put together and structure together a face that will move and and do all the facial stuff. Like
it's this field called deep learning, and it's basically you need a ton of data, like you said, right? And basically each iteration in this algorithm, each point in this algorithm, it sifts through and creates like a mathematical function that gives you the best output to match what you're looking for. So like say I wanted a face that's making a O sound, right? Like I would create some sort of mathematical function that matches that face perfectly. And so you need millions and millions and millions and millions of pieces of data.
It's usually famous people because they have all that data.
That's exactly why.
Their face gets taken because there's so much information of them out there.
Yeah, we couldn't take a picture of all of us, right, and do it accurately because there isn't that kind of data.
Yeah.
So
that what's funny? I listened to there's another podcast I listened to, and one of the guests was talking about that he doesn't read. He doesn't necessarily need to read books. He just needs to read social media. Mm-hmm. And if he wants to know about a person he was talking about, Cardi B put out a song about put out it was like a bar in her lyrics that she kind of shouted out what this guy was working on. And, he wanted to know about Cardi B. He doesn't know anything about Cardi B.
Sure.
Just went to the tweet, went to the Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and knew everything. And then finally put on his tweet, kind of like thank you and stuff like that.
For sure.
For shouting me out. And I was just like, that's how I get my information. And I feel like I know who Cardi B is. For sure. Just because she puts her life, and that's what people are doing, putting their life out on the web.
That's one of the first things I did. And like, there's this whole, and I didn't learn about this. I run a chapter of Yankee fans, right? So like a fan club in Utah. Mm-hmm. And so I run a Twitter for that. And so I follow all that and stuff. And that's how I got on Twitter. But then I was like, I found out there's this whole side of science and academic Twitter. Everybody, all the scientists, doctors, everybody, they all have Twitters. And they disseminate research. They talk about their research with each other. They talk about conferences they're going to. They bash on politicians they don't like, the usual stuff. But it's just like, everybody uses it. And so the first thing when I, hear about somebody's work, first thing I do is I go look them up on Twitter and I see what they are, because it's more personal, right? They're
Yeah.
talking about their personal life. They talk about their kids or, their vacations are going on, stuff like that. And it's kind of lowers the stuffiness of academia. It's crazy.
Because they're normal people.
For sure.
At the
That's
end of the day, they
for
still,
sure. Yeah.
they got their lives and their families
Yeah.
and things they
Yeah,
do.
I love running across like sports fans that are like scientists, right? Like you see this cancer biologist at Harvard or whatever who's a Jazz fan or something like that, and you're like, no kidding.
Go
You're like,
Jazz.
who would have thought? Yeah, other than last night. Yeah, but yeah, so it's cool.
Go
Yeah.
Jazz, go Jazz. Shoot, just going on that since we just mentioned family, let's talk about a little bit your family.
Mhm.
Recently, married 2 years now?
Yeah, it's coming up on 3 this summer.
Coming up
Yeah,
on 3.
yeah.
Tell us,
Yeah.
how about you tell us a little about
The missus.
because you don't have
Yeah.
Kids right
No,
now.
not yet. Yeah.
So just the missus. You have any pets?
Yeah, we just got a puppy
Okay.
in December. Yeah,
That's
very
the
little
dog's
lab. Yeah, Mickey. So after
Really?
Mickey Mantle, he's a baseball player. So I got to throw that plug in there.
Shout out to Mickey.
Yeah.
Mickey man.
Shout out to Mick.
Yeah.
No, Nicole's fantastic. We actually went to the same high school. She's a year and a half younger than I am.
That's Jordan.
Yeah. Once again, producing quality. So I didn't.
Fastest growing city in Utah.
Shaq Wow.
I didn't know her in high school. And funny thing about I love mixing music, right? And so I used to go to raves and stuff. Okay, so like all the time, like and ooh, we got a little beat going. Yeah. She saw me on Twitter actually. Like I said, I was going, and so she sent me a message one night and was just like, "Hey, are you going to this?" And she wasn't planning on going, but she saw I was going, and so she went and bought a ticket. She's like, "Let's meet up." And so I never take my phone into shows just because I don't want it falling out and getting stepped on. So I left it in the car and I texted her. I said, "Hey, if I see you, I'll see you. I'll probably get up by the front." And I ran into her. And this was New Year's, and she was my New Year's kiss, and then from that point on, like it was like a modern fairy tale, right?
The modern fairy rave.
Yeah, fairy rave, yeah.
First the kiss, then the
Yeah, that wasn't where it stopped. No, she's So from that point on, she just barely finished up school this last December. She's got her degree in kinesiology teaching, and so she actually does a ton of sub work at West Jordan. So
I didn't know that.
all the time. Yeah. So she's doing that. And she also does interior designing, like decorating and stuff. And
She's the feng shui master.
oh yeah. Yeah. You should see.
The
She just did
energy in your house flows very well.
In my place, it would look so bad. I'd have like red Solo cups sitting everywhere. And she's got, these, she's got these fancy paintings everywhere. She's good, and she just redid her parents' place and blows my mind. So
she have a fancy painting of a red Solo cup.
an homage to me. Yeah. No, she.
I would buy one.
So she's kind of torn in between which way she's gonna roll, like whether she's gonna stay in teaching because she loves like teaching. She does like PE, dance, stuff like that because she danced at the U for a couple years. But she also really loves this interior design
Kind
stuff.
of hip hop or
She was in the modern dance program, so which is super weird. Not knocking it, like it is incredible, like what they do, but it is very weird. Like if you go YouTube modern dance, like it is.
No,
trippy.
dude, that's probably the same moves you do
It's
at the
trippy.
house.
Yeah. The problem is mine. I think I'm good.
It's just like
that.
This
It's
is the
actually
same
good.
shit you
Yeah.
do. It's the same shit you do.
Yeah, that's cool. So we've been together and we're kind of holding off on kids till I'm finished with school and stuff.
That's cool.
And we'll see.
How does she put up with the hours that you put in?
She's good. I mean, she's really understanding about that, right? And the nice thing about my work, since I'm working with data, like I work from home a ton. So
nice.
I have a little office space set up at home, so I see her all the time.
Oh, nice.
And if like I'm going into the office late, like there will be like these 1 or 2 week periods where I'm, busting out of study and I got to be there from, 8 in the morning till 12, 1 at night, right? Yeah. And so she gets that and she understands that grind. She knows, like, I told her from the get-go, like when we first started dating, like I'm going to be busy with this kind of work, like if you're okay with that, like
she knows you're building Jarvis.
Yeah, she thinks I'm doing work, but little do I know I'm talking to my computer. Yeah. So
you're talking to your computer to do the work for you. It's
who are you yelling at? Not you.
So she's fantastic though. She's the best.
That's awesome.
She's my best friend.
That's awesome.
Partner in crime.
You mentioned you have 2 other siblings. well, what is it? You're the oldest,
Mhm.
and then your sister, and then your little brother.
Yeah. So my sister, she's 2 years younger than me. She's at Westminster right now as well. So she left the state for a couple years. She was out in Michigan. She was doing some online school. She came back, and she started liking public health, kind of the same, close to the same stuff I'm working on.
Yeah.
Just a little more like health oriented. I think she's really interested in like studying, like diseases, like communicable diseases in the community and stuff like that. And so she does that work. And so she's got, I think, a year and a half left. And then she wants to go do social work, like in hospitals and stuff like that. So,
well, yours is like a social work already.
Yeah. So I'm pretty proud of her. She's doing really cool stuff. And then my little brother, he's 5 years younger than me.
Yeah.
And he's a manager of like a group home. And he's been doing that for a couple of years now. And he does really cool work too. And he has this awesome relationship with all his clients. And
nice.
You can tell it's a really rewarding job too. So it's cool. And he was playing sports all throughout high school as well. And I kind of hoped he went into sports at the time. And I think he may have found like his little niche. So like what he wants to do. So
when I met Trey for the first time, I invited him when I found out that I worked with your pops.
Yeah.
And he told me that his kid was going to West Jordan. And that summer, I invited him out to go throw some balls to some footballs with Matt.
Yeah, I remember that.
And that was cool. I knew it would be cool for him. Yeah. And your dad came in. You were there?
Yeah.
Were you there? Yeah. And I remember you saying this like, shit, I didn't have this in high school.
Man, for real.
And this is when Matt Asiago was still playing for the Minnesota Vikings. And it was awesome just to see Trey trying to throw a ball. And
what's crazy is like when he was in Little League, like Little League football teams, they don't really throw, right? Until 12, 13, or then they start picking it up a bit. This kid was gunning from 8 years old. I mean, I think they went to like 4 straight state championships. And Trey, we added up his line, and I think he had 120 touchdown passes in the league with 2 picks. Yeah, like the kid threw dimes, and I know like coaches had their eyes on him. From he came in through with my senior year when I was a varsity, right, and he was still in Little League. Yeah. He came to our early mornings and would throw with our receivers and stuff like that. And so, there was a place, just kind of didn't work out in a way, but
yeah, it's all good though.
Yeah.
He was a freshman at the time when he was throwing the mat.
Dang,
he was only a freshman. I wish Matt would have done another, just another session like that. And because I also brought the Olympus quarterback coach or the Olympus quarterback to come and throw with Matt, and he was excited to do that as well. But it would have been interesting to see Trey, a little older, Well,
it would have been different too, right? Because Highland, we ran the option, right? And that was completely different than where West Jordan was at the time, and throwing the ball all over the place. And that was a good little group of receivers at West Jordan for a minute, right? Like those kids could, and you got 2 or 3 of them that ended up going playing college ball. Mm-hmm. I think Dallin Jameson, I think he's still at Weber State, right? Yeah. You had Hunter Christensen, who finished up at Dixie, right? Like
good players. There's players that I coached as well,
for sure. And so, I mean, it just would have been a completely different player trajectory, because Trey had to learn how to run. Yeah. And the thing about the option, right, is like you have to be fast to an extent, but it's really outsmarting the other team, right? It's reading and outsmarting the other team, and if you execute everything perfectly, your yardage every time. Yeah. So, and he did that well. But. Yeah,
I think he would have done good for us. Like I said in the beginning, it's because situations he went to a different high school. But when I saw our offense, I was like, this would have fit Trey.
Yeah. Well, and Oakley, Kopp, right? Yeah. Like he's playing right now, and he's starting. If I'm not mistaken, I saw that he was posting a video on his Instagram, and he's playing. I saw him
also another kid. Him and Trey are the same age, and so I was able to coach him from freshman all the way up.
And he ended up using the Q for a bit.
So, other than that, talk a little bit, just real quick about your parents.
Yeah.
The impact, because I know your mom was a booster president for West Jordan. Me growing up, and my parents being part of the booster club was a lot of work as well.
For sure.
A lot of work behind the scenes to build and maintain the program to be a strong program. And then your pops, you know, I work with your pops.
Yeah.
I talked about this earlier, you know, your pops is a damn worker, man.
Yeah.
He just works. And like he even though, you know, it's like, damn, you gotta slow down, man. You gotta slow down. It's just, that's his pace.
Right.
And let him go at his pace. He's a good worker. He's been a good man ever since I've been working with him. And just, it's incredible to continue my life with, you know, knowing you guys. But tell us about your parents.
Yeah, aside from the working hard thing, and that's really evident, right? Like my parents are the best people like I've ever met, right? It's, you know, from a very young age, you know, we were drilled with, you know, manners and how you talk to people and how you treat people. It doesn't, you know, matter where they're from, what they do, you know, how they think, whether they think different. And that's, you know, one of the things I've held my hat on throughout my entire life. And everybody notices it, right? I mean, I remember in elementary school, and you'd see the way that kids act, or you'd see the way that, you know, other parents acted and stuff, you know, whether it be at sports, whether it be at school. And I just took pride knowing that, one, that's not how I was raised. That's not how my parents act, you know, and there's a reason for everything they did.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's carried on, right, throughout my life, right? And, you know, people have made it noticed, right? Like, or have noticed that, that's what they do.
Yeah.
The hardworking thing, right? Like, my parents, I mean, ever since I was little, right, there was never, no matter what we wanted to do, whether it was my sister when she was acting, or it was me playing sports, whether it was, you know, we wanted to go, you know, to some sort of, you know, science thing or something like that. They always made it work, right? And I'm not, because their whole goal was to give us the experiences, you know, that, you know, would shape us to do whatever we wanted to do. And they did whatever they had to put us in that position. And there were times definitely when all three of us, you know, had maybe toned back, wanted to give up, wanted to stop doing stuff. And my parents forbid that, right? My parents are the sole reason that we all are where we are, because without them, I mean, it wouldn't be that. I owe everything to them, 100%. So
nice.
Respect.
Yeah.
Well, kind of like a twist right now. I wanna have a special guest come on. So I wanna invite your father to come on and kind of sit right here.
Come on up, Derek. Come on up.
Come to the hot seat.
Mr. Derek Benson
In the house.
And we'll close with, you know, we'll kind of end, you know, our little pod here with Derek. And I've worked with Derek for, I'm going on 7 years where we're working at. Obviously Derek has worked there, you know, 20 plus, 25 plus, and just to get to know him just only for these past 7 years, it's been awesome. Your dad's an awesome guy.
Yeah.
And I see, even though I don't see you guys physically, I have a vision, because when he talks about you guys, and I have seen through his mouth, no homo or anything, you know, pause. But I've seen through his words your guys' development. I want Derek to kind of talk about Ryzen and where he has started, his development, and, you know, where he is now, and just, you know, give a little testimonial of your son.
I tell people all, they don't, until they meet him, they don't really understand it, but every parent says, oh, my kid's going to do this or that. But you knew from the get-go that Ryzen was going to do good things. He just always was that person. And everybody noticed that about him. And my wife, it was a lot of her, she, like, just kind of like he said, never let things go unanswered, and he always had questions. And
No way with questions.
Yeah. But I don't know, we just always tried to answer him. And I don't know, he's never disappointed me in anything.
Yeah. I remember when he was telling me that what you were getting into, and he's like, "Fuck, I don't know what he's getting into. I'll get his bio to you as soon as I can."
That's just He talks to me, and he's got such passion about what he's doing, and I try to understand as well as I can. And it just goes over me. They're way smarter than me.
Well, now we both have an understanding of what he's. I kind of, dumbed it down to my level and whatnot, because I know you can probably talk your shit on that level. I'm not there, but
people say all the time where to get it from, and it wasn't from me.
And I've also, he also told me that you've been the motivation for him. He's taking classes now, and so like tell us about that, how that's going.
I kind of just told all three of the kids that they all went to school.
Yeah.
That I had some schooling done that I would finish.
Yeah.
And I came home one day and they bought me a computer and signed me up. And I didn't do anything. I mean, I'm signed up for classes next semester. I don't even know what they are yet.
Oh shit.
And they helped me with, because the computer part has passed me by.
Oh,
I didn't know anything about it.
I ain't tech savvy either, man. I'm with you.
What about your archaeology dig?
Yeah.
How about how to plug there? Tell them about that.
One of my classes, I took an archaeology class, and I got to go on a dig.
Wow.
Up at the University of Utah barracks. They were barracks for the Civil War.
Oh wow.
And I found a button off like a Civil War uniform, which was cool.
Oh,
it's in a little museum there now.
Oh really?
Isn't that wild?
Wow.
I didn't even know about this. Like I knew he told me he found a button. I didn't know it was up in a museum, and I found this out probably like 2 months ago, and I lost it. Like I was like, that's insane.
It's just a little museum up there. I mean,
but
it was cool when I found it because I brushed a little dirt off. You knew what it was right off the bat.
That's cool.
Give me my $100,000, man. Come on.
They're looking at Dr. Indiana Jones over here.
But the schooling thing, like I said, that's all been on them. They helped me. They're probably sick of helping me submit papers, and we're getting it done. So I'm gonna finish.
That's cool. Man. Before we close, just real quick, some kind of personal questions. Let's go with working out. You work out? How many times you work out a week?
Yeah. So I was working out really steadily up until we got our puppy.
Mm-hmm.
I did not understand how much work a puppy is to raise. Like it is unreal. Like we're waking up every 2 hours to take this puppy out. Like have to have eyes on him constantly, right? So I was working out 4 or 5 days a week. Just lifting. Like I don't like to run and stuff, but I love lifting.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's kind of been put on hold. But I'm starting to get back into it now that the puppy's older and kind of doesn't take as much. But and the wife and I, we can't really go together, right? Because the dog, we can't just But so she kind of goes early in the day, and I like going late. I love working out late at night. I used to work the grave shift at Vasa.
Okay.
So I worked there for like 3 years.
Your process.
And I did that more just so I could do my schoolwork and get paid for it because nobody comes in at night.
Yeah.
But I got this habit for like working out at like 1 a.m. And so I really enjoy working out late when you can get whatever weights and machines and anything you want.
I was gonna ask when you work out. For me, when I work out, I feel like it clears my thoughts. It kind of refreshes me to do whatever I'm about to. About to do. Does that do that for you?
Yeah, so a couple of things. One, like I don't think of anything when I'm working out, right? Like I'm not thinking about the work that I have to do. I'm not thinking about bills. Like I'm there like working out. I throw in my headphones. Listening to music is my favorite thing in the entire world. Mm-hmm. So I just get to listen to my music. And I love the feeling of like when you leave the gym, that feeling of you went and you bettered yourself. And I feel that most days. There's days like when it's a frustrating day in the gym and you just don't feel like you got better that day. And that's kind of maybe one of the last leftover competitive things from like sports that I really have.
Yeah.
But I find myself more motivated for work, for sleep, for eating better, money, like saving and stuff like that when I work out. So I think overall it's just better for everything. So we still go on, like we've been going on hikes and stuff not then, and we still kind of get that same feeling being outdoors and stuff, but nothing compares to just I love getting under a squat rack and squatting. That's my favorite.
Yeah, squat's always good. I recommend
Yeah.
squat for everybody.
Yeah.
To do.
Yeah.
Don't ever, do not skip. I'm not saying leg days. Do not skip squats.
You
Just
know what?
do squats.
Let's think. So you guys know Silver?
Yeah.
So he came my junior year and senior year. I tore my labrum 3 games into my junior year.
Okay.
And I just earned my starting job, right?
I don't even know what a labrum is.
So it's just right here on your shoulder. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
basically I
You
tore
can
my
just say,
labrum,
it's on
and
my
this like
shoulder.
this muscle right here tore, and so it holds your shoulder in place.
Okay.
So since it was tore, like my shoulder every hit would slide out of the socket and then back in.
Oh, okay.
But at this point, I was getting recruited. I just earned a starting job. That was the year I won like all region and everything like that. So I didn't want to sit out. So I played the last like 10 weeks through, which was bad because I ended up having surgery and it was like a 7-8 month recovery. But I remember in the weight room, I couldn't squat, right? I couldn't hold a weight back because this muscle would re-rip.
Yeah.
And so Silver came in and he taught me holding a plate like straight out in front of you and sitting on a bench, holding one leg up and then just single leg squatting up.
Yeah.
And so I did that every day, like every single day for 6-7 months. And my squat max jumped from, I think I was at something like 150 before that. And then I was squatting like 375 after that. Like that thing put some muscle on.
Squats is important.
Yeah.
Man. I can get your dad in the squat rack.
Yeah.
Well, he's working.
Yeah.
Man. I already said
Yeah,
you're a good worker anyway.
Yeah. You get enough exercise.
Your most favorite place you've ever been to,
Ooh.
and what place do you want to visit?
That's tough because I'm a Yankee fan through and through, right? Okay. 162 Yankee games a year, and I watch about 156 of them. Okay, 155. I watch every Yankee game. Like I make time for that. Okay. Yankee Stadium's about as good of a place as it gets, and it's tied between Yankee Stadium and Seattle.
Oh.
I went to Seattle for the first time 2 years ago with my wife. We went and saw a concert there, and that city's unreal. Like it's young, it's diverse.
Yeah.
It's got everything. It's got sports. It's got great food and bars. It's got music. So I mean, if that's where I end up, like for my career, like I'd be thrilled. Like
That'd
Seattle's
be cool.
awesome. And then as far as where I want to go, there's a couple places I've always wanted to go to. Italy, New Zealand. I really want to go to New Zealand.
Yeah.
And then coaching at Highland, right? Learning about like all the islands and stuff like that. I think that would be awesome too.
Yeah.
But
That's awesome.
Yeah.
3 values you learned from your young life that you use now.
Mm-hmm. I would say 1, treat people with respect, right? It kind of started off, I remember when I was really young, my dad said the golden rule was to treat women with respect, right? But treating everybody with respect.
Shout out to Derek Benson.
Local
222.
Treating everyone with respect. 2 is setting my goals high, right? And then I would say, setting attainable goals high. And that's a plug to Coach Morgan at West Jordan, right? You don't just set a random goal. It's got to be attainable. And then number 3, I would say, is just pushing through like whatever happens, because like growing up, like we had some rough years, throughout my childhood, some rough times, and I always pushed through. So now every time I get hit with something, like you just get smacked in the head and you just move on. It's just gonna happen. You just gotta keep going. So
nice.
Yeah.
Hey.
Hey,
Thanks
what's
for-
real quick though.
Real quick, we got
Where
a
did
question.
you get inspired for Ryzen?
Andre Ryzen, football player.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which
Okay.
he's ran into some trouble. He's not in the model citizen.
Yeah. We're trying to save the.
He won me some money in fantasy football the year.
Yeah.
And that was my man. So that's where
That's dope, man. Yeah, that's way
Yeah.
cool. I seen the name the first time you texted me,
Yeah.
and I just was like, okay, like
we spelled it different, but that's where it came from.
Right.
Okay.
It's not just a Utah name, like
Yeah.
the McKinsley.
those random names.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool, man. I like that.
That's awesome.
One more thing, how hard? Well, you heard that thing when people hit their head
Mhm.
and they come out of hitting their head at like a certain impact, and they sit down and they play like this
Yeah,
giant
yeah, yeah.
classical piano
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
How hard do you have to hit your head to come out? How hard you gotta hit your head to come out genius, right?
Oh.
Let's just say stop playing football. One more hit and I'll lose
Oh man.
it. No.
Hey, keep your questions
I love it.
later.
I love it, dude. Hey, thank you.
Yeah.
This news will break it down.
Thank you. Thank you, Ryzen. Thank you, Derek, for coming
Thank you.
on. That's it for us. This is episode 7, brand new podcast with Ryzen and our guest speakers, Ryzen and Derek Benson. Follow us on social media. We got YouTube. Subscribe to the channel, please. We got Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter under Niuvaai, which is just NIU and then capital VAAI. So Niuvaai, and that's our following name. So follow us up and let us know what you think. Let us know what we need to work on because we're always looking to improve. All right, we'll see ya.
Thank you. Hey, right on.
Thank you.
Right on.
Thank you.
Thanks,
I tried
guys.
to eat when I pushed off.
You're good. Thank you,
Thank you,
right
Derek.
on.
Thank you.
guys.
That was cool. Thought you guys did a good job. Yeah, that was fun.
It was
I'm pretty sure you learned a lot.